Today, we're going to be talking about Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and we're actually filming this movie review live on my Twitch channel during a stream. So if you are not already followed, it'll be in the links in the description, or you can just search up with what the pop tag says right there. As with all the movie reviews, there will be a non-spoiler section and a spoiler section, and when there is the spoilers, there'll be a indicator down below like this that shows when there is that we are talking about spoilers. So if you have not seen the movie, you don't have to worry, and you can still stay around. And if you don't care about spoilers, then you're more than welcome to stay around for that as well. But honestly, going into Venom, I didn't really know what to expect, and from the response that I saw from social media, honestly, it just kind of felt like there was a lot of mixed opinions. And a lot of people enjoyed it, and there was a lot of people who weren't too happy with it. And so honestly, my expectations kind of were not there, and I kind of just went in with an open mind and was willing to take that interpretation from as best as possible. And when I originally saw the first trailer for this film, I really wasn't that interested. And it wasn't until the second trailer release that I actually had my curiosity peaked. And when I got that curiosity peak is when we got a better look at Carnage himself. And that's where the overall excitement I felt came from. And so I was just a little bit hesitant on how they were going to treat the character of Carnage. And overall, I feel like they treated the character pretty well. But yeah, so going into the film, as far as Venom 1 goes, I was overall just Venom, the first Venom was a very, it felt very much just very heavily favored just around Brock with a side of Venom. And I didn't really know the approach that they were going to take. And I think that the balance between Brock and Venom in this film really complemented it each other well. And I think there was a perfect balance rather than feeling overwhelmingly Venom and not so much of Brock, or the other way around. And I think they handled that situation very well. And I think the the character relationship dynamic of the film kind of just worked, and everything kind of just fit really, really well. There was points in the film where I felt like it was dragging on a little bit, and I felt like they could have maybe cut up some details or sped it up in some areas. But I really didn't feel like the film was too long, but I would have liked maybe the removal of some kind of useless scenes, and instead provide more stuff that would benefit the story. And that's my overall major complaint. Some of the cinematography felt really, really incredible, and some of the shots were really, really well done, and others kind of felt a little clunky. And I would have liked for the cinematography and stuff when it came to action sequences to maybe have been a little bit cleaner, because it kind of felt a little bit sporadic. But maybe that was just the style that they were going for, and maybe I'm just overlooking at it. And yeah, so honestly, Venom and Brock complemented each other very well. And I think overall Carnage was handled very well as a character for, the amount of time that we got to see Carnage. And yeah, overall, when I left the theater, I left the theater feeling satisfied, and by no means did I leave the theater feeling like it was going to be an award-winning film by any means. But it was overall a good time, and it was definitely a film that I would recommend to people to watch, whether it be by yourself, with friends and family, with a loved one. There's so many different types of situations where I feel like this movie would be very good, and I feel like this movie did genuinely offer something for everyone, which is something that you can always appreciate in a movie like this. And with it being a movie made by Sony, in association with Marvel, you never really know what you're gonna get, because Sony is a lot of hit or miss, honestly. So overall, I would give this film a solid 8 out of 10 stars. It definitely had its handful of flaws, but it was definitely watchable, and I would say that I enjoyed this film a little bit more than the first one because there was that better dynamic of, that interaction between Venom and Brock that you kind of get a sense for in the trailer. So I think because that was handled a little bit better than the first film, I feel like I overall just enjoyed myself a little bit better. So I would definitely just overall recommend the film if you have not already seen it. Grab a friend, go by yourself, whatever the situation may be. I would definitely recommend this film for just about anyone. It is rated PG-13, so keep that in mind. I wouldn't necessarily recommend bringing your family with super young kids. But yeah. So now we're gonna go ahead and head into the spoiler section of the review. Basically everything's fair game here. And I couldn't quite remember how much of it was discussed, or how much of it was shown in the trailer, so I didn't really want to touch on it too much in the non-spoiler section of the review. But the relationship dynamic of the love-hate story, everything just felt very strange. It just played a weird dynamic in the story, and I see where they were headed with it, and the concept of Venom and Brock rescuing, and also Brock having to rescue Venom after them fighting and stuff like that. But things just felt, maybe it was just unpaced correctly, or it was just out of, maybe it needed to be approached a little bit differently. But I think just that relationship dynamic, while it did provide to the story, and it was definitely a much needed approach, I would have liked it to go a little bit in a different direction, if that makes any sense. And overall, like I said, the soundtrack, it was fine, and overall, like I said, the action scenes being a little bit clunky, so I was overall kind of a little bit underwhelmed between the actual fight between Venom and Carnage, and the way the ending of the fight itself, and how the end of Carnage comes, is a little bit underwhelming, because we have this giant fight that's building up for 10 minutes, and it just kind of ends very poorly, I feel like, because we have all this anticipation, and then it ends in a way that didn't feel satisfying, so that was a big issue that I had with the ending of the film. But overall, moving into the part that I really wanted to focus on talking about here is the end credit scenes. And both the end credit scenes probably got me the most excited over the actual film itself. So in the first mini post-credit scene, we see Venom talking to Brock, and they're discussing the future, and Venom talks about how he needs to leave and do his own thing, because they're looking, they're on the search for Venom, they're not on the search for Brock. And I feel like Brock has that not really coming of age, but he has that realization that he really wants to stick it through and be with Venom. And so we get that sincere moment of them of realizing that he wants to stick with Venom despite everything that that they went through, and now that they're being searched for even more by officials and stuff like that. And then in the final post-credit scene, we get a scene of after Brock and Venom had fled the country, we get a scene of them laying in bed and discussing Venom's past and what he has seen. And Venom basically discusses how the knowledge that everything that he's been through would cause Brock an immense amount of pain, and because of this, and then essentially Venom shows a slight bit of the past, and we get that linkage between Venom and Peter Parker's, or Tom Holland Spider-Man, with a scene where he takes him to a place where he shows Peter Parker on the TV, and we get Venom actually licking the TV screen and indicating that there had been some kind of past between Venom and Spider-Man. And that, for me, got me really excited for the future of whatever these franchises choose to do with this fusion of characters. And it'll be really interesting to see that dynamic going forward. Like, honestly, I feel like those characters, like Tom Holland Spider-Man and Eddie Brock's like Venom, would complement each other so well on screen, and there's limitless possibilities on how that could be approached. And I'd really be curious on, you know, what your guys' theories are about, especially about the end credit scene. And if you saw the movie yourself, I'd be curious, you know, what you guys thought in the comments down below. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. And I will see you guys on the next video. Peace.